Right now I'm in the process of replacing these hydraulic lifters that is already endure for over 200,000 miles. What happened to them is they become noisy, the engine begins to rattle. In the video description you're going to see a video link that describes the situation we're having with this hydraulic lifter. What I want to show you in this video is this part right here, also known as the fuel pressure regulator. Let's take a better look at it. So there you can see the metal spout that connects the vacuum line. It's totally corroded and it's broken. So this will most likely cause a P0300. That's a random cylinder misfire. And this is at approximately 200,000 miles. You'll most likely see this happen to the fuel pressure regulator. This is going to require replacing of the fuel pressure regulator, and sometime you're going to want to take that complete fuel rail out. Once you remove the intake manifold, in another video you will see how to do that. You're going to have this wire harness here that connects to below the intake manifold. These are for idle control, and what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to unclip it from the valve cover, and you're going to have to move it from left to right to gain access to this screw here and this one here. Now, if you don't have this tool here, I want you to take a very good look at the tip of the tool, which is a Phillips. You have to get this design to work on the screw. You cannot use any other design. So you must make sure you have a Phillips screw bit like that, and you're going to fit it into a 1/4 inch socket like this. We're going to use a ratchet, and before you remove the part, it is best to saturate the fastener, the screws, the threads with some penetrating oil or lube. Now you're going to want that to sit for a few hours. You really don't want to strip the Phillips screws, because that will require removing of the fuel injector rail. Then you will be able to remove the fuel pressure regulator. Now once you remove the fuel pressure regulator, there are other part to it that will also need disconnecting from the fuel rail. Another essential part is you want to take a wire like this, and you want to give it a little curve in the end, and you just want to pass it in the screw there. You just want to clean out inside where the tool will have to fit. Now you also have to be careful you don't drop the tool like we did. Care must be taken that the screw does not drop down on the transmission bell housing. So you want a tool like this that'll fit perfectly into the screw, preventing it from stripping. One important thing is, in the process of removing anything on the fuel plumbing, like this pressure regulator, you want to depressurize the fuel system. And you can simply let the vehicle sit for a few hours approximately 10 to 12 hours, and the fuel pressure will just drop off naturally, and then removal of the part can be made safely. Also, it's important to cover this area here. You don't want any screws to fall in there. If that will be the case, you will need a magnet to fish it out of there. Now that the two screws are removed from the pressure regulator, the fuel pressure regulator, you just want to shake it, pushing it towards the rear. And you see it's detached, has an O-ring, and it also has a return hose that comes to the other side over here, which needs a 10 millimeter to get removed. And then we're going to have to work on this clamp here. First, you're going to need to remove this zip tie strap for unholding this harness. This is the fuel injector harness, and you're going to have to get this clip out of the intake manifold. Well, this is going to be out of the way once you remove that manifold. So what we want to do is we want to place some lube at the end of the spout onto the fasteners. This is going to allow easy removal. I'm going to take a Phillips screwdriver and just unscrew You're going to want to be careful with this part because it's very tightly fitted from the factory. If it's the first time you're going to be detaching it, you want to make sure you have a lot of lubricant where the rubber hose meets the spout. Then we're just going to take a pliers, place it on the hose, and I'm going to rock it back and forth to break that seal. Once you get it moving like this, that means the hose is free on the spout for pulling it off. And of course you're going to have some fuel in there, so you're going to want to get a cloth, make sure you're not smoking. There's no incandescent light bulbs, because if those break, it will cause a fire. Now is the best time for removing the 10 millimeter bolt that holds the line to the injector rail. that's what the bolt looks like. Now we want to just safely pass the fuel pressure regulator out with its accessory. Now we're going to go and get the new one, which is this one. It's an aftermarket. We could not locate one from the dealer, so this is a Intermotor PR95 fuel pressure regulator. Let's take it out and take a look at it. It looks like the factory unit, but you can see here it has a stamp in it for setting the pressure, where on this one you don't have a stamp on it. So this one is from the factory and this is the aftermarket. So this part here with the clamp has to get removed, reinstall. Want to make sure you place some oil on this O-ring when reinstalling it. So let's go make that detachment and installation. So that detachment and replace was completed for the new pressure regulator. This is going to be placed on the side later. I want to take this apart to see if it's operating. Apply a vacuum to here and see if the flow passageway is open. That's what happens when the fuel pressure in the rail builds up. The vacuum, when it's high, will open inside here, allowing the fuel to flow back to the tank, maintaining a 36 pounds per square inch pressure in the fuel rail for the engine to run. So the first thing we want to do here is we want to make sure we place the part the way it was removed in its location. And of course, the last part, or I should say the fastener that was removed, is what going to be the first for replacing. Then what we want to do is, once you place your oil on the O-ring here, you just want to fit that pressure regulator into the line. So you just want to fit it into the fuel rail, and then we could tighten the 10mm nut or bolt. So most likely you're going to be in an awkward position when doing this because the vehicle is so high. You're most likely going to have to place a bench on the front of the vehicle so you can stand on, and then you will be leaning over to perform this procedure. So if you're looking for a measurement of the torque on that 10mm bolt, I will say you put it at 10 inch. And this clamp, you will tighten it so the fuel does not leak. Now we just want to place this back in position. Well, that's going to be done when the intake manifold is replaced. So now we have to place the Phillips screws that was removed into location, and this will require positioning of the pressure regulator. Trying to align the screw is going to be the most difficult part. So you're going to have to be very careful. What I'm using is just the tip without the socket. And you're going to have to leverage the fuel pressure regulator according to how the screws are fitted. So that is complete the installation of the fuel pressure regulator without removing the fuel injector rail. In the event you cannot remove the fuel pressure regulator because the screw is stripped, you will have to remove the fuel pressure regulator by detaching the fuel rail and its injector from the lower intake manifold. Thank you for watching this video, and see you again for another video.